Well, they've been pop gods for such a long time, and now we take a look with more videos, more live footage, and more interviews from Pet Shop Boys' Popumentary.
Well, before I met Chris, I was working for a company called ITV Books. I was always writing songs. I'd written songs since I was about 10 years old, and I was sort of doing that by myself, but I'd sort of given up any hope of ever really getting anywhere.
So I was basically a student, really.
We started writing songs together quite soon after meeting. And it was like a hobby, something to do on a Saturday afternoon or a kind of wet Wednesday evening. Then we decided we'd like to make a demo of some of the songs, and this is when the high energy boom of the early 80s was just getting going, and we first heard Bobby O's music. And there was also a sort of high energy scene coming out of Record Shack and places like that in London. And at the same time hip hop was happening too, and we quite liked Planet Rock and all that kind of stuff. And so we were trying to put all of those together into our music.
At the time we first started making music and everything, all the dance music really was coming from New York. There wasn't really much of a dance music scene in England, really. It was at the time of hip-hop, you know, and everyone dancing, you know, break-dancing in the street and all that, and sort of Africa Bambaataa and Arthur Baker and all that sort of thing. That was one thing that was happening. And also there was a lot of, as Neil said, electronic dance music made by Bobby O also being made. So it was a very exciting time, really.
And then we met this guy, Bobby O, whose records we liked, when I was in New York to interview the Police for Smash Hits. And that was really the great thing that Smash Hits contributed to the Pet Shop Boys, was the fact that I was in New York at the right time. I went to meet Bobby O, more or less on the spur of the moment. And he said, oh, let's make a record. And we went and made West End Girls about 3 weeks later. Sometimes you're better off dead, there's a gun in I just had the idea for what I thought of as a rap beginning. Sometimes you're better off dead, there's a gun in your hand, it's pointing at your head. And it was very much inspired by the message.
I can't walk through the park cause it's crazy after dark. Keep my hand on my gun cause they got me on the run. I feel like an outlaw, broke my last glass jar. Hear them say, you want some more? Living on a seesaw.
And we had to have a, you know, we thought of the name Pet Shop Boys because Chris had some friends who worked in this pet shop in Ealing. And we always used to say they should call themselves a group, they should come a group and call themselves the Pet Shop Boys. And so when we actually were going to release a record, we said to Bobby, oh yeah, it's called the Pet Shop Boys, that's the name of the group. And then suddenly we had to think about actually being visually a group, which was something we never really ever thought we would get to. I remember the first time I went to Belgium, we were told we were going to do a PA, and we hadn't been told before we went. And I was nearly sick with fear at the thought of this. We had to mind the record in front of all these bored kids in this tent in Belgium. And that was really when we actually sort of felt that we'd become a group. I've got the brains, you've got the looks, let's make lots of money. You've got the brawn, I've got the brains, let's make lots of money. And we recorded Opportunities eventually, and that did nothing. And then we recorded West End Girls with Stephen Hague, a totally new recording of it, and put that out in, I think, October 1985.
And it was doing really well. It looked like it was going to be #1 after the holidays of that year. I think it was '85. And we were working on the album at the same time as the single was charting high, you know, trying to knock an album together from a lot of disparate parts.
Stephen Hague had produced Madam Butterfly by Malcolm McLaren, which we really liked. And also a record by the world's famous Supreme team called Hey DJ. And we loved those two records. And so we wanted to meet this guy because it seemed that he was doing a little bit like what we were doing. He had kind of hip-hoppy beats, but he also had these kind of lush strings and stuff like that.
We spent a lot of time sort of like sitting on the couch reading magazines whilst he sort of laboriously, you know, sort of copied what was already on our demo. As years gone by, we've slowly sort of got away from that way of working, and that we kind of were more hands-on, as it were. It's a cliche, right? And so we do more now, so less magazines are read.
Let's take a ride along with the dogs tonight in suburbia. You can hide along with the dogs tonight in suburbia, in suburbia, in suburbia.
I guess there's a sort of glib picture that that they come from two very different sides of music. That Neil's the kind of one who's into kind of musicals and kind of Noel Coward and classical music, and that Chris is into kind of hard dance grooves. And it's kind of true to a kind of small degree, but they're both really into pop music that comes in the middle of those things. And also I think they both appreciate either sides of those two things far more than people suspect. I mean, you know, Neil isn't a complete slouch in kind of obscure dance records, and you know, Chris is the one who's got the video of The Sound of Music at home. And I think Neil and Chris are totally in charge of what they do, but they're not in charge in a way that a lot of people think they are, in that they kind of carefully and in some Machiavellian way plan out everything they do, and there's some big pop strategy, because Neil used to be a journalist and knows how it works. They're very, very good at finding people they like, people like David Fielding, who is doing the current costumes or whatever, and deciding that they want them, and then completely letting them have free rein.
When we finished It's a Sin, we were mixing some of the Actually album. We saw a bit of the film Caravaggio on the television in the studio. Actually, we only saw about 20 minutes of it. But we thought it looked great, and we decided It's a Sin was going to be the first thing off, actually. And so we decided to find out if Derek John would like to do it. Because we thought maybe it'd have that kind of medieval, sort of a medieval look to tie in with the kind of Catholic